You couldn't sleep. It was 3 a.m. You tossed and turned, but alas, sleep just refused to come to you. Your brain just couldn't stop thinking. Now, this wasn't a new occurrence. You were known to have the occasional bout of insomnia. However, it was particularly more difficult this time around. Previously, you'd had a best friend, Shinso, to keep you company during these sleepless nights. He often spent most nights up until early hours of the morning, so when you had trouble sleeping, you'd sneak over to his room. The two of you would just play video games, watch movies, or talk. It was fun. This year was different, however, since Shinso had been accepted into the hero course. He'd also had to move dorms, which made sneaking over to his dorm room just about impossible. You really wish you had a teleportation quirk right about now. If you were being completely honest, the thing, or, well, the person your brain couldn't stop thinking about was the indigo-haired insomniac himself. Over the past year, you'd developed feelings much stronger than a friendship for him. You loved how he could talk to him about anything and everything. His sarcastic nature and how he didn't give up on his dreams of being a hero, despite his quirk being considered villainous by many. You didn't think your feelings were completely one-sided, or at least you hoped they weren't. Sometimes he did little things that made you think he likes you back. Like, for example, he always remembered even the tiniest details about everything you told him. Whether it was your favorite Pocky flavor, which he just always happened to have on hand, or that one episode of that one show that always made you shed a few tears. He always tried to help you study, even now that you guys weren't in the same curriculum. Though there was a possibility that you were sure you had just been projecting your feelings onto him. That you wanted it so badly that your brain convinced you that he returned your feelings. There was no way he liked you, right? After all, the hero course was filled with so many nice, attractive students who are training to be literal heroes. Shinso Hitoshi is handsome, and many others find him attractive, so why would he choose you over them? Still, sometimes it felt so real. You decided to just bite the bullet and confess to him. The thing is, you'd been trying to confess to him for weeks now. However, there was always something in the way, whether it be the bell ringing, schoolwork, classmates, or even teachers. On the off chance that there weren't any interruptions, your nerves would just get the better of you and ultimately chicken out. Suddenly, you had an idea. Getting up from your bed, you turned on the lights and walked over to the mirror you had in the corner of your room, just to make sure you didn't look too bad. Deciding that you looked decent, you climbed back into your bed and grabbed your phone, unplugging it from where it was charged on your bedside table. Shinso always had trouble sleeping, so he'd most definitely be up. You could just FaceTime him. It wouldn't be the same as your old late-night chats, but surely this would be just as nice. You just really wanted to hear his voice. Before you could talk yourself out of it, you called him. He usually answered pretty quickly whenever you called, but this time it seemed like he wasn't going to. Just when you were about to hang up and surrender to the uneventful hours ahead of you, he answered. It seemed as if he propped his phone up against something, maybe a wall, so he didn't have to hold his phone, but you could still see him. The sight before you made your heart flutter. A very sleepy-looking Shinso Hitoshi was on the other side of the screen. His usually messy hair was even messier than usual, and he was wrapped up in what you could only describe as a blanket cocoon. He was laying down on his side, cheeks smushed against his pillow adorably, so that he could properly face the phone. "Hey," you greeted, waving a bit even though he couldn't see you, realizing you'd been too quiet for too long. "Are you awake?" You immediately wanted to punch yourself in the face. Of course he was awake. How else would he have answered? Not really," he said in a sleepy, raspy voice, followed by a yawn. You immediately felt guilty. Just your luck. The one time he could get some actual sleep, you'd wake him up. "No, I'm sorry. I'll just call back later. It's nothing important or anything. It's really stupid, really." You rushed out, looking away from your phone, forgetting the idea immensely. "Don't worry about it. It's fine," he reassured. God, his morning voice would most definitely be the end of you. You were fine with that, though. It would be a great way to go, all things considered. How are you? You guys talked for a while, about anything and everything. You told him about how general studies were going and any new classroom drama. In return, he spoke to you about the hero course and told you stories about all his new classmates. It was nice. After you finished telling one story about how your class currently had an ongoing prank war in your dorms, you looked up to your phone to see he had fallen asleep. You couldn't blame him. After all, you called really late, and apparently his class has been putting him through the ringer during training exercises during the day. You were going to hang up. Really, you were, but he looked so calm and at peace. You couldn't bring yourself to look away, much less actually hang up the phone. You know how I've been trying to tell you something for a couple of weeks now? You asked the sleeping Shinso while looking up at the ceiling. Your sleep-deprived brain decided, hey, he's asleep. Now's a good time to practice declaring your undying love for him. Well, I guess what I've been wanting to tell you is that I think I'm in love with you. I've been trying to tell you for forever now, but every time I try to tell you, a million thoughts go through my head all at once, and my brain short circuits, and I want to kiss you so bad, but I don't know how. You couldn't help but laugh at how horrible that sounded, relieved he was asleep. You would definitely not be confessing like that. You looked back at your phone, expecting to see a sleeping Shinso. Only he was very much not asleep. He was looking at you with wide eyes, mouth slightly agape, obviously surprised. Your blood ran cold, heart stopping for a couple of beats before restarting on high speed. You swore he could see your soul leave your body. You were startled into action when he started to speak, hanging up the phone before he could get a full word out. He tried calling again, but you didn't answer. You felt like throwing up and weren't quite ready to face the possibility of rejection. One thing was for certain, you were not getting any sleep tonight. You were avoiding Shinso like the plague. Was it a little immature? Maybe. Did you plan on facing him anytime soon? Frick no! You knew it was a cowardly move on your part, but you just weren't ready to face rejection just yet. You'd leave the bravery for the hero course students. So you'd resorted to eating lunch out in the courtyard and going back straight to the dorms as soon as class was over. Thankfully, you had a pretty good idea of Shinso's schedule, being such close friends with him and all. So you knew which hallways to avoid when making your way to class. Sadly, this also meant you had gone to class late once or twice. Your plan, though carefully and strategically thought out, only really worked for 3 days. Your last class of the day was English, so it was, to say the least, a little dull. You wanted nothing more than to get out of the stuffy classroom the moment the bell rang. Still, you stayed in your seat long after the classroom was deserted, taking longer than necessary to pack everything. You wave off your friends, telling them you'd meet them in the dorms in a bit. After all, the longer you waited, the fewer students you'd find roaming the halls, which meant the less likely you were running into Hitoshi. After about 20 minutes, you decided it was safe to leave. It had been a long week, with all the schoolwork, avoiding your indigo-haired crush, and you'd gotten little to no sleep this week. You had wanted nothing more than to get to the dorm and change into the most comfortable pair of pajamas you owned, perhaps take a nap as well. Yawning, you gathered your things and made your way out of the classroom, wondering whether or not you felt up to joining the weekly moving night in the common room. On one hand, you felt like sleeping through the whole weekend. On the other hand, you felt like you hadn't hung out with anyone in forever, with changing your schedule so abruptly. You owed it to your friends, especially since they'd brought you food from the cafeteria. Maybe. Well, well, well. Look who we have here. I take it you're not done avoiding me yet? Your heart leaped into your throat. You knew that voice. Almost too well. In fact, you doubted you'd ever be able to forget it. There stood Shinso Hitoshi, sporting the same messy hair and tired purple eyes. He was leaning against the wall, one leg propped against it, shoulders crossed and backpack slung against his right arm. You couldn't help but glare lightly at the shoulder with the bag strap. You always scolded him for doing that. He was going to end up hurting his shoulder. He was right next to the door you just exited from, obviously waiting for you. He was a sight for sore eyes. You hadn't quite realized how much you missed him in the past couple of days until just now. It'd only been 3 days without him around you, yet those 3 days were the hardest days you'd ever had in a long time. You'd been moody, mopey, and, as much as you hated to admit, irritable. The effect his presence had on your mood was almost frightening. You wondered if he felt the same way. I haven't been avoiding you. You tried to defend yourself feebly, wringing your hands together while looking at your shoes as if they were the most interesting thing you'd ever laid your eyes on. I've just been strategically going where I know you won't go. That's the textbook definition of avoiding someone, Shinso said in a deadpan voice, rolling his eyes. You winced slightly. He used his leg, leaning on the wall, to propel himself up a bit away from the wall. He walked until he was right in front of you, close enough so that your shoes were touching. You felt your heart was going to do a somersault in your chest. Look, you started, taking a tiny step back, bracing yourself for the inevitable rejection. Rejection sucked, sure, but at least you'd get your best friend back. I'm sorry for avoiding you. I guess I was embarrassed. Really embarrassed. I still am, actually. I didn't want you to find out like that, and then I just freaked out and hung up on you, and you were caught off guard abruptly by a pair of warm, cupped hands around your face, followed by a soft, slightly chapped pair of lips on yours. Not a second after. Apparently, Hitoshi had just decided you were rambling too much, and kissing you was the obvious way to shut you up. You really hope this meant he likes you back, otherwise it was going to be really weird between the two of you. The kiss was relatively short, but sweet nonetheless. He pulled back after a couple of seconds, a small smile gracing his face. That's how, he stated, dropping his hands from your face. You blinked in confusion, letting out a little, huh? Noise. You were still a little dazed. When confessing your undying love for me, you rolled your eyes at that. You said you wanted to kiss me, but you didn't know how to. Now you do. Feel free to do so whenever you feel like it. With that, his left hand grabbed your right, lacing your fingers together, pulling you a bit so you start walking. This means you like me back, right? You asked, just to make sure, swinging your hands in a gentle back and forth motion. He turned to look at you incredulously. Nah, we're just really close friends, he teased, sarcasm dripping from his voice, as you exited the building. This caused you to glare playfully at him, bringing your free hand up to flick his nose lightly so it wouldn't hurt. Where are we going? You inquired curiously once you realized you weren't heading in the direction of the dorms. On a date. Shouldn't we change out of our uniforms first? After the both of you changed out of your uniforms and dropped off your backpacks at the dorm, the two of you had a dinner at a nearby cat cafe. It was pretty perfect. Hello, my wonderful weebs. To end off 2020, I decided that I would make an extra long video, and of course, doing my favorite insomniac boy, Shinso. All rights go to the writer for this amazing fanfiction. I really enjoyed it. It's super fun. Also, what are your thoughts on my new mic? I really enjoy it. It picks up everything. And when I mean everything, you could hear my fan. I'm sorry if you could hear background noise. It's just that this mic picks up everything and anything. I also wanted to say, go check out my last video if you want to get like a brief thing of what's going on. But what I'm trying to do is, if we get to 1,000 subscribers by tomorrow, I will do a live stream on Saturday. Like, when I mean tomorrow, it could be like 8 o'clock tomorrow, and we'd still get it, okay? Yeah. But if we get to 1,000 subscribers by tomorrow, by the end of tomorrow, I should say, I will do a live stream, like a Q&A live stream, with me drawing or doing, like, playing a game or something. And then do a marathon of videos for the first week of the new year, because that would be awesome if we could start off the new year with 1,000 subscribers. And if we don't hit it, that's fine too, because I'll do either the live stream or the marathon of videos, because it's a lot of work on top of the schoolwork that I'm already doing. So if we do get it by tomorrow, miraculously, if that happens, I'll make it happen, and I'll, like, make a lot of videos. In the live stream, you guys can request characters and stuff for each day. I think that was it. Besides, thank you for 900 subscribers. If you didn't watch my last video, if you have, you already know how much I'm grateful for all of you. I hope you guys have a great start to 2021, because my next video will hopefully be next week, unless we do get to 1,000 subscribers. Then you're gonna get, like, a whole marathon of videos for the first week. I think that's it. It's gonna be a long video. So I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe down below. Also to follow my Instagram, because that's where I post all my updates for the channel. You can see all of that in the description, as well as all the other links that I use for the video. My Instagram link is also in the channel bio, to go check that out. And with all that said and done, don't forget I'm the Lady Otaku, and have a wonderful day, night, evening, whenever you're watching this. Goodbye. Hope you had a good 2020, I guess. And let's have a better 2021.